Hi, welcome to Ground Control and episode number 23 of the Pilot's Lounge. Okay, so first I want to give you information about the new channel, YouTube channel that I've started, and it's called Tinkerz Lab. I have 20 years of employment experience in information technology, so I have done a lot with computers and networks and servers and workstations and software and hardware and you name it. So I've started this new YouTube channel to provide people with tutorials on using different types of applications, whether it's photo editing software, audio editing software, video production software, 3D modeling and rendering software, office and productivity software. So it's going to cover a very wide range of all the software that I use on a regular basis to do different things, and I would assume that most people will be using the same type of software. Everybody takes photos, right? Everybody takes videos. So I'll show you how you can make those photos better, you can make the videos better, and of course everybody uses word processors, spreadsheets, presentation software, and so I'll be providing tutorials on all that too. And the software that I'm going to be highlighting in these tutorials is all open source and free software, completely free. And my operating system is Linux. I've been using the Linux operating system for 25 years now, and it's been my primary operating system that whole time. But the applications that I'm going to be providing tutorials on will not only run on Linux, but they'll run on Windows, they'll run on Mac OS. So it's nice that no matter what operating system you're using, you can use the same applications. So there will be a link to that YouTube channel in the show notes. So if you guys are interested, take a look. I appreciate the subscriptions. So anyway, I've just gotten started with it. I've just got about a dozen videos uploaded to that channel so far, but I'm adding them fairly quickly. Okay, so enough of that. I've got in a lot of questions on using my setup and OpenTX model files. Now, if you're not aware, every aircraft that I get set up, get tuned, get handling exactly the way I want, I create a setup file, and I publish that as a PDF file that you can download and use. It covers everything from the amount of control surface movement that I have on my aircraft, the way I have the control linkage set up at the servo arm and at the control horn, the amount of expo that I use. I even provide my launch throttle because I have to hand launch most of my aircraft. So if you've seen some of my flight videos with the aircraft that I have, the setup file will get yours set up precisely the way you see mine flying in the flight videos. So that gives you a very good starting point for getting your aircraft set up. So if you use the setup file, you should be able to get your aircraft set up and flying the way I have mine flying, which means you should have a successful maiden launch and maiden flight every time, barring some type of component failure. We've all had those. Okay, so going forward, and I've also been providing my OpenTX model files so that you could download and import them. Now going forward, I'm just going to be providing my setup files from now on. I think that the OpenTX model files are a little confusing for some people who haven't imported one in the past, and there are some things that you need to modify on my OpenTX model files for your use, and I did produce a video because I get a lot of questions. I produced a video, and it's posted on our YouTube channel, and there's a direct link to it on our Facebook page. I have pinned that video at the very top of the Facebook page, and it's titled "How to Use Our Setup in OpenTX Model Files." It goes from It shows you how to use the link in the show notes to go to the Google Drive to download the setup and OpenTX model file, how to unpack the OpenTX model file, because I also include an image of the model with the OpenTX model file, how to import it using OpenTX Companion. It goes through all the modifications that you need to make to the OpenTX model file for your aircraft. So anyway, all the ones that are already published on our Facebook page, they will remain there for you to use. But I'm just going to be publishing the setup file from now on, and that will get the aircraft set up exactly the way mine is set up, no matter what kind of transmitter you have. As long as it is a programmable transmitter, you're good to go. Okay, so I did get my new motor installed in my Volantex Phoenix S Sport Glider. It still seems to have a slight vibration at about 75% throttle. But it's much, much better than the stock motor that came with it on 4S. I bought this motor, this Racer Star replacement motor for that Sport Glider, so that I could take it out and fly it on a 4S LiPo. So I've got it ready to go. It's going to be using the same prop assembly. It's a 10x6 folding prop. And we'll see how much more power it produces on 4S as opposed to 3S. I should have it in the air fairly soon, in the next couple of weeks. I'm just waiting for better weather to go back out and fly again. We have had some really windy and gusty weather for the past month, so it's got to clear up sometime, right? All right, so the crashes. My last flight session, I went out with 3 aircraft, and it was the worst. It was the absolute worst flight session I have had since I have been flying RC aircraft. I took 3 of them out, and 2 of them were crashed. Luckily, the first aircraft that I put in the air was the RadioLink A560 3D trainer plane. I've got a lot of flights on it. I've never had a single problem with it. I put 9 battery packs through it that morning. That was the first one I put in the air, and I didn't have a single problem with it. Okay, so then I put my Eachine F-18 50mm EDF kit in the air. If you guys watched the Maiden flight went fairly well, but the ailerons were pretty twitchy. So I needed to tone those down a little bit, and the only way I could do that was with the linkage. So, and after the Maiden flight, I had a pretty poor landing with it, and ended up breaking off one of my wing protectors. So that ended the flight session with that jet after the Maiden flight. So I took it back out. This was just the second launch. I made the linkage adjustment on the ailerons. I launched it. It took off nice and sweet. I let it get about 50 to 60 meters downrange from me before I turned it back. I would say it was probably about 25 feet in the air, as far as altitude. And then it just started descending on me. And it was pretty flat. It's not like it nosed down or anything. So I pulled back on the elevator and nothing happened. And it descended a little bit more. Pulled back on the elevator again and nothing happened. It kept descending. I pulled all the way back on the elevator and nothing happened. I got no response from the elevator servos. And there's 2, elevator servos that are independent. And both of those are patched into separate channels on the receiver. So since I knew I was going to impact terra firma, I just cut the throttle and let it glide down. It did come down pretty flat. If I had been flying over grass, it would have just been a nice landing. But I don't have grass to fly over. So when it came down into that desert scrub, and a piece of the desert scrub caught the wingtip, and it just cartwheeled it. Got it repaired now. But it ejected the canopy, broke the canopy in 2 pieces. It completely destroyed the nose of the aircraft. I mean, when it cartwheeled, it broke the foam all the way around right in front of the wing plate. There was no foam holding that together. The only thing that kept the nose on the aircraft was the carbon spar reinforcement that I put on the bottom of the nose of the fuselage. Otherwise, the nose would have completely been separated from the aircraft. So I got it all put back together. It's ready to go up again. The only thing I can attribute that to is the Lemon RX 6-channel receiver that I had in it. The chances of those two servos, elevator servos, going out at precisely the same time are just astronomical. So I'm jocking it up to the Lemon RX receiver. So when I take it back out again, I'm going to be putting the RadioLink R8 EF 8-channel receiver in it, because I've never had a single problem with any of the RadioLink equipment that I've used so far. But I wasn't done yet. So I had also brought my Z-84 Racewing out with me, which is the first fixed-wing aircraft I'd ever flown. And so I put it in the air, and I've got it set up with a 4S LiPo, and it is just an absolute rocket on 4S. And it has vertical acceleration at full throttle. So I had been flying it for about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes max, I'd say. And I had punched it, on level flight, pulled up vertical, and was accelerating vertically and doing a double vertical roll, and I was going to pull it through a split S maneuver. I was just having a blast with it. And as soon as I had completed the second vertical roll, all of a sudden the wing just shot off to the left. And I thought, the thing that I thought had happened as soon as it did that was, I thought that there was a tremendous gust coming through at that altitude, and it hit the wing and really, pushed it out. It's not unusual out there sometimes if you got an 8 to 10 mile an hour wind, and without any warning, you'll have a 30 or 40 miles per hour gust come through. So I thought that's what had happened until I tried to level it out. And then instead of leveling it out, it just dropped the wing and nosed over and started spiraling toward the ground. And it was, like I said, it was about 60 or 70 feet up in the air, and all I could do was stand there and watch it. So I went and recovered the wing, and it had broken the foam right along both of the vertical stabilizers. It had dislodged the nose skid that I had on it, and it had completely destroyed the forward section of the canopy on it. So I'm going to have to fabricate a new canopy for it. But what had happened was, when I was doing that full throttle vertical acceleration and doing that double roll, the plastic clevis on the control horn had completely pulled out of the control horn, and I don't know how in the heck it managed to do that, because I didn't have one of those little silicone rubber bands, on the end of the plastic clevis to keep it closed. I had a section of fiber tape wrapped around it, and it produced enough force that it popped that fiber tape loose, and pulled that plastic pin completely out of the control horn. I have never had that happen before on any of my aircraft. So it's repairable. It's got some battle scars on it now, and that's the first issue I've ever had with that wing. I've never crashed that race wing. So I was so disappointed. What are the chances? I have never had a flight session where I took 3 separate aircraft out and had component failures on 2 of the 3 aircraft that resulted in crashes. That has never happened to me before. I guess there's a first time for everything. So the F-18 is repaired. I've got to get the new receiver set up in it. It'll be ready to launch again. The Z-84 wing, I'm going to repair the airframe, fabricate a new canopy for it. But I think what I'm going to do is, before I put it back in the air, I think I'm going to order some metal clevises to put on that wing. Because it's, that's a lot of force. I admit that is a lot of force with the speed that thing has on a 4S LiPo. And I think it just, the clevis just couldn't handle it. The plastic clevis just couldn't handle the force. So, first time for everything. But anyway, that was my 2 crashes. I'm lucky that I put the RadioLink A560 3D trainer plane in the air first, because if I had if I had waited until last to put it in the air, after the second crash, the second component failure, I would have just said, heck with it. I'm packing up and going home. This is not a good day to fly. So I'm glad I at least put that in the air first. So I had one aircraft that I had absolutely no problems with. All right, so what's in the pipe? All right, so I am going to take time to set aside to design and build a micro bush plane, and I'm shooting for sub 250 gram. So I'm hoping that within the next month and a half, I will have the prototype built and ready for launch. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be my next project. After that, I'm going to be completing the conversion on the other 1 meter Cheetah chuck glider. And I think I've got all my components picked out for that I'm going to use. So I'm going to try to keep it below 250 grams. It's probably going to be close, just like the dual motor 1 meter glider that I converted. But with one motor and one ESC and now I have some 4 gram digital servos I'm going to put in. I'm hoping that the all-up weight, and I'm just setting it up for a 2S LiPo, so it's going to have a lighter weight LiPo in it. So I'm hoping that it will be sub 250 gram once I get the conversion done. But I think I'm going to be putting the Racer Star 2208 1400 kV motor in it. I'm going to be using either a 9x5 or a 10x6 folding prop on it. I went back and looked at my numbers with that motor on 2S with the, I think it was a 8x4. I think it was an 8x4 prop. Plenty of thrust. It was pulling just under 10 amps. So I'm probably going to be putting like a Turnigy Plus 12 amp ESC in it that provides 5 volt 2 amp on the back, or maybe I'll have to put a little larger ESC in it. We'll have to see how much torque that 2208 motor provides. And 4x Emax 4 gram digital servos are going to go in it. So, and the reason I decided to do that, and the reason I think it's going to have plenty of thrust, is that RadioLink A560 plane just has a 2206, is a 1500 kV motor on it. It's spinning that Gem Fan 8x3 8 prop, and if you guys have watched the videos of that little plane with that 2S power system, with that motor and that prop, it accelerates vertically. It's got tons of power just on a 2S LiPo. It's sub 250 gram. So I think if I can keep the weight down on that Cheetah glider, I think it's going to have plenty of power on 2S with something between an 8x4 to a 10x6 prop. I'll probably try. I might try it with an 8x4 folding prop to begin with. We'll see. But I think that project's going to work out just fine. So stay tuned for that. All right, so that's a wrap. That's a wrap on the Pilot's Lounge, episode number 23. Hopefully, my next flight session will go much better than my last flight session. Stay tuned. I can't wait to get the micro bush plane built and get it tested. Hopefully, it will be successful, and if it is, I will provide plans for it. So, stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.